Genetic variance does not constitute a disability. Let me explain. Say, for example, you're trying to read a book, and you're a good reader. Some people can read the entire book in one night. Other people read 10 pages, they're thinking, I wonder if I need to walk the dog, and I think I left the stove on, and I think I left clothes in the dryer. So there's a continuum, where on one end of the continuum, you have people that can clearly filter distracting thoughts. And on the other end of the continuum, you have people that are constantly challenged by intrusive thoughts, trying to creep into their mental awareness from down below lower levels of the brain. Now, this is not a broken brain at each end. Some people are really great at filtering competing thoughts. Some people always have ideas popping into their awareness. It does not make one broken to be at either end of that continuum. Now, in the external world, there's times when I'm testing kids and the toilet will flush 3 rooms away, or there'll be a siren far, far off in the distance, or there'll be a dog barking in a building next door. And those kids will notice. They'll look up and say, what was that? What was that? And then there's other kids. There can be a phone ringing. There can be an alarm going off. There can be a fire truck going by. They don't stop working at all. So we also have a continuum for the ability to filter external distractions, just as we have the continuum to filter internal distractions. So there's these kids at this one end that can filter external distractions quite well. And there's kids at this other end that notice everything in their environment that would be considered a competing stimuli. It could also be visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Some kids have to touch everything they see. Some kids notice everything that goes by visually. Some kids hear every sound. Other kids are pretty much blind to all that stuff. So there's a continuum both for internal distractions and external distractions where people fall at each end, and they're not broken if they fall at one end or the other. They have trait differences. Now there's another continuum, the continuum of fear or compulsivity versus impulsivity. There are some folks at one end that make no decisions without thinking what might happen. They're actually called risk avoidant. They're afraid to make choices without thinking out all of the possible ways this event could unfold. And there's people at the other end that live in a world of just do it. Actually, we call the people at the end that think before they move or decide ready, aim, fire, and the folks at the other end are called ready, fire, aim. So the ready, fire, aim people tend to get themselves in quite a bit of trouble. Now there's one last continuum, the continuum of movement. If you tell a 7-year-old, sit still until I get back, some 7-year-olds can sit for 20 minutes without moving an inch. And other 7-year-olds can't sit for 5 seconds. You leave them alone for a few seconds, they're falling off the chair, they're sliding out of the chair, they're touching and moving and feeling and bouncing and bumping. And no, that doesn't mean they're broken. It just means that some people have an intrinsic need to be in motion, and some people are happy being still. Now, if you're happy being still, and you think before you make choices, and you filter external distractions, and you filter internal distractions, school is going to be a perfect fit for your brain. But if you're at the other end of that continuum, and you always have competing thoughts, you're continually challenged by reorienting yourself to external stimuli, what's going on around you. You make decisions quickly without much thought, and you need to move. School becomes almost like prison. You feel like you're trapped when you're in school. So social anthropologists have decided that if either of these ends of the trait profiles was not productive to the evolving human species, it would have been gone. There is a need for both types of brains to make the world work. You need your villagers, your organizers, your systematizers, your detail people. You need your hunters and your explorers and your inventors, people to think outside the box, people to challenge the rules. Both subgroups of trait styles are necessary for the survival of our species. Yet schools were not designed for hunters. Schools were designed for villagers. So if you happen to have a hunter and you're trying to put that hunter in the village, you're going to have a hard time. Now, does that make them have a disability? To me, that makes the schools inadequate in meeting the needs of the hunters because they're designed for the villagers. So we don't need to change the kids, we need to change the schools. Now, the funny joke I might commonly say is when you have the kid who filters distractions easily, internally and externally, can sit passively and thinks before they make choices, you typically get a bumper sticker that says, "My child is the honor student at such and such elementary school." If you have the kid that needs to be moving, notices external distractions, notices internal distractions, and thinks quickly without a lot of forethought, you get the bumper sticker that says, "I beat up your honor student." So let's all look at kids a little differently and not see them as disabled, but see them as having different trait profiles, some of which match very well how schools teach, and some don't match very well at all how schools teach.